My hair looks crazy. Stop it. I just came from the beach and I could like not do this video because I'm worried about my hair, but long hair don't care. I really don't care. I honestly don't care. Just came from the beach. It was nice. This video is gonna be about what do I like the most about Argentina, because people always ask me, you know, why did you move there? Why are you living there? What do you like about it? And honestly, what I like the most about it is the people. But over that, on top of that, is like the skyline. Or it is the Miami skyline. Here, I'll show you. That way you don't have to look at my hair. But that's not much. That's just like the Edgewater area. And then over here, you get into like the downtown area. Is that downtown? Yes. No, that's Bayside. Those buildings there are Bayside, near where the Miami Heat play. And then those over there are downtown. I'm currently in Alapata, pretty close to Wynwood. Airplane above. Let me sit down, I'm tired. Just came from the beach. So, the people, and you're like, what do you mean the people? Well, the people in general. If you're out public transportation, in a bus, in a train, the people are very pleasant. You know, they seem to be very decent, very well educated people. And I mean it with the mannerism. With their mannerisms, you know, they're very polite. If they see like an old lady or a pregnant lady or a person, let's say you're a guy with your kids, you know, people will immediately offer up their seats, you know, for you. So I've seen it happen a million times, and it's stuff that here, you know, in the States, it's not fairly common. You know, there is nice people out there, there's very polite people, there's very educated, but it's not that, you know, part of the culture. Over there, I see it very part of the culture. I haven't seen any like physical altercations, any fights. It's a big city, it's a big country, you know, 40 million people in the country, one of the biggest metropolis in South America, so I'm sure it happens. I'm sure locals are like, what are you talking about? You know, it happens, but it's very popular to hear that porteños are people from the capital, people from Buenos Aires. It's very popular to hear that they're not nice, that they're rude, that they're like similar. You know, I've never heard the comparison that they're like New Yorkans, but you know, just to give you an example, you know, I've never heard that comparison because I don't think they are. But I've heard that they're not nice, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? They're like the nicest people on earth. Like, they seem to be very nice. So I guess people in the provinces and smaller cities throughout Argentina and other states throughout Argentina are probably even a little nicer, a little more laid back, because sometimes, you know, the city life, you're on the go, you're rushing from one job to another, or you've been working all day and you're rushing home with the rush hour traffic or the commute and the public transportation. So maybe they have that reputation for at certain times not being the nicest, but I've never experienced that. They're extremely nice. Service-wise, it's not a country that gives the best service when you go out to eat, but they're not rude about it either, you know, from my experience. But talking about that, that's another thing that I absolutely love about Argentina, and it's about going out to eat. You know, in Argentina, I could afford to go out and have a lunch, and then I could go to afford to have a dinner, you know, every so often, you know, every day, every other day. So I try to do that. I usually work from the house, I usually work from home, you know, because I work remotely. And when I'm hungry, 2, 3 in the afternoon, I usually go out to a bodegón. Bodegón is like a little restaurant, little neighborhood restaurant. It doesn't mean about the size, because it could be a huge restaurant, but it just means, you know, I don't know if it is the accurate definition, but this is what I realize. It's like a neighborhood restaurant, nothing fancy, nothing too elegant, but well priced, very big portions. In Argentina, I really loved that. You know, being able to go have the plate of the day or whatever special item they have that day. You know, it's usually a dish that you leave full. You know, it's a dish with a lot of abundance, and you leave full. And I end up spending $4 or $5. You know, $5, $6 at most. You know, that was my budget for lunch. You know, $5 to $6. And I'm telling you, I've had full meals for $4 to $5 at so many different restaurants. Now, if you're staying in Palermo, Recoleta, you know, the expat area is full of tourists, you know, you're not gonna find that. But that being said, there is I would go often, you know, to a bodegón in Palermo. It was a little more than $5, but for being in the area and for being the quality and the portions that you got, it was very well priced. I'm talking about, I'd spend $7 or $8. But around Palermo, you know, you're looking at $10 usually. But it's still, you know, it's still fairly easy to find restaurants where you could eat, you know, for under $10, have a full meal, and probably even with a beverage. You know, now I've been out of the country for 2 or 3 months, but before that, I've gone various times out to eat with my friends, and even with wine, you know, an entree and even an appetizer and some wine, we've spent $10 to $15. Now, if you're talking about a more upscale restaurant, which I absolutely like to go to nice, you know, high-end upscale restaurants once in a while, you know, typically throughout the week, throughout the day, I just want to get a meal out of the way. So I like to cook at home, but I also like to eat out, so I will look for something cheap. But then when I go out with my friends, they usually pick something more expensive, something more upscale, and my friends are from there. I have a lot of friends that grew up, that were born and raised in Argentina, and they usually like fancier restaurants. And when we go to a fancy restaurant, we have 2 or 3 bottles of wine. I'm talking about within 5 or 6 of us. It's usually a group of 4 to 5 of us. And one bottle is not gonna be enough for that many people. So we usually drink anywhere between 2 to 3 bottles of wine. And we usually get like a good wine like Luigi Bosca or Zapata. I don't know the names. I'm not familiar with the names right now. But, and then we'll have an appetizer, and we'll even have some water. We'll order some water for the table and have a full meal. I'm talking about a big steak or some ribs, you know, whatever the case may be. In those places, we end up spending around $25 per person, with everything included. And you can't beat that. Come on. Talking about in the States, here in the United States, if I go out and have a burger and 1 beer at like a neighborhood bar, I'm gonna spend $25. I'd be lucky if I get something as cheap as $25. So I'm giving you something that in Argentina, a really nice restaurant's gonna run you from $25 to $30, and you're gonna eat something in a nice area, in a nice restaurant, which in the United States, it will be the equivalent of $100, $150. You know, just going out to eat here, it's relentless. So that's why something that I really enjoy about Argentina, because I'm not saying it's affordable for the people, for the locals, but it's affordable for me, and it's something that I could finally, you know, experience. I guess they should, you know, I feel like they feel when I'm here in Miami. When I'm here in my hometown Miami, that's how Argentinians feel when they're in Argentina, because they're like, damn, everything's expensive. It's high inflation, everything's becoming more expensive. Well, that's how I feel here in Miami. Here in the United States, anywhere. Everything's gotten too expensive that the locals, you know, cannot really enjoy it, cannot really afford it. I have a really good friend here that, you know, he goes out to eat all the time, but he's in debt. He's living paycheck to paycheck and can't even afford it. You know, I don't know why he goes out to eat and drink, but he doesn't want to change his lifestyle and make some sacrifices. He's really still doing the things that he enjoys, but he is broke as a joke. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a hard worker, he's working hard, but I've seen him multiple times. He even tells me about this app that'll give you like cash in advance, and then, you know, they charge you either a flat rate or they charge you interest, but I mean, you're just never gonna get out of that. And when he gets paid, he does these, he works at these small gigs, and they give him the option. If he wants to get paid right away, they'll subtract $2 or $3 from his check. If not, he has to wait a week. And he always goes for the fast option. You know, all these little fees here and there are the reason you're not gonna get out of that rut. It's the reason you're not gonna get out of that hole. You know, paying interest on your credit cards, paying interest on items that you bought is the worst thing you could do. You know, let's say this shirt, for example, it's a cheap shirt, but let's say this shirt costs $100. You pay it right now, it's gonna be $100. But if you put it on your credit card and don't pay your credit card right away, you know, that 22% interest, I've heard that interest has gone up as high as 29% interest. You're paying $129 for that shirt. And remember, it's not 29% just for once. It's 29% forever until you pay it. So it's gonna take you longer to pay it, and by the time you paid for the shirt, you know, it might be 2 or 3 years with all the other interest you accumulated and all the other debt, you know, that you accumulated, all that other money that you owe. By the time you actually finish paying off the shirt, maybe 2 or 3 years go by and you end up paying $300 for that shirt. So whenever you're paying interest, you're paying, you know, either 25% more for what you're buying, or sometimes even double or triple what something is worth. The only time, you know, I agree with having interest is when you're making a very expensive purchase, like buying a property. Buying a property, you're getting a mortgage, you're paying some interest, you're paying some loan, you're paying, you know, a lot of fees. But who else, you know, who has $200,000-$300,000 in the bank to buy a property up front? You know, and sometimes it's better just to invest that money that you have saved up, invest it on high dividend stocks, some on crypto, invested on a bank account, you know, that gives you a savings account that gives you a good APY, and you're gonna be set. Like right now, Webull is a crypto app. They're giving 8% APY, but it's only good for 6 months. But that's good, and they're FDIC insured, so you don't have to even worry about it. So look it up, Webull, and you just gotta make your money work for you. But yeah, when you're buying a property, I understand. When you're buying an expensive car, something that you don't have the cash for, I understand paying interest. But everything else, either try to save up as much money as you can, and or avoid being in debt, avoid paying interest. And if you have a few credit cards where you owe money on, try to pay off the one that you owe the least. That way you get that one out of the way, you know. Do a credit check, talk to your credit providers, talk to your credit card, give them a call and say, how much do I owe? How much, you know, are you willing to negotiate if I pay it all off at once? You know, maybe they'll work with you, and try to pay off your credit cards. Try to get out of debt. That's the most important thing. You know, that way you could be able to travel, that way you could be able to relocate, that way, you know, people are like, oh, I love your life. I wish I could live like you, Leo. Oh my God. I'm like, I'm not rich. I'm not well off. You know, look at me. I'm in Miami. I have a car. I'm not even driving it. I'm trying to sell it. I'm trying to sell it. That way I get rid of it and I get out of here. But look at me, waiting for public transportation. You know, this video is already 14 minutes long. Public transportation here is terrible, terrible, terrible. It takes forever. It's another thing I love about Argentina. If you're waiting for that train comes right away. 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe if it's late night, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Same thing as the bus. If you're waiting for a bus anywhere in Buenos Aires throughout the day, usually 3, 4, 5 minutes. You don't have to wait long. Now if it's later in the evening, maybe, you know, I've waited up to half an hour. You know, but that's very rare. That's because it's late in the evening, and I'm talking about 2, 3 in the morning. You know, sometimes they take half an hour, 45 minutes up to an hour. But that's because they run 24 hours. Not all of the lines, but most of the lines in Buenos Aires run 24 hours. With exception of the train, with exception of the subway. But the buses are good. Here, this shuts down at midnight, and almost every bus shuts down at 9, 10 p.m. You know, some of them run till midnight, but none of them run 24 hours. You know, in Miami, actually, yeah, there's like 1 or 2 that run 24 hours, but it's like the one near the airport or near the beach. So it's only good for like tourists. But look, it's 7 p.m., 8 p.m. and I've been waiting here for a good 20 minutes for the train, which goes nowhere either. So I don't know. Public transportation here is $2.25 each trip. So you're taking the bus, $2.25. You're taking the train, $2.25. This one, the Metro. Now you want to take the Tri-Rail that takes you a little further. That one costs like $5 or $6. So it's pretty expensive in comparison. In Argentina, I think the buses were like 10 cents American, and the train was like 25, 30 cents American. I think it's gone up to like 50 cents now. I'm not quite sure, you know, because things change so often in Argentina. But that's another thing that I really enjoyed. And the nightlife. And I'm not talking about clubbing or going out dancing, which is fun too. I'm mainly talking about like the social life in Argentina. There's always so many events. And here in Miami, there's a lot of events, there's a lot of nightlife. But the people, like you go to them, like you don't really click with the people. You don't, you know, sometimes you sit there, I mean, you stand there, you talk to them, you even exchange Instagram or your number or business cards, but that's where that relationship ends. You know, that's where it ends. Like in Argentina, no. Like Argentina, you go out, you probably meet someone, you have a good time, and then like I don't know, you end up seeing each other again, you end up making effort to link up again, or they'll send you a text, hey, how you doing? Hey, we're doing a party this weekend, or we're gonna go to the park and have some mate. You know, they're a lot more warm, they're a lot more inviting in Argentina. And as a human being, you know, we're meant to socialize, we're meant to be loved, we're meant to share our times with people, and that feels good, you know, and it's fun, and I don't know, I absolutely love it. I think the train is coming, so I'm gonna cut this video short. Take care, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Hasta la vista.